Hello and welcome to Lucifer Died for Our podcast. We are Geeked Out Nation's The Wicked and the Divine podcast. Each episode we jump into one issue of The Wicked and the Divine. This month's episode is focused on The Wicked and the Divine number 13. I am Jess Camacho. You can find me on Twitter at Camacho Jess. I'm the comic editor for Geeked Out Nation, and I am a contributor at Multiversity Comics. This week it's just me and my co-host Jadobi. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, I'm Jadobia Dunze. You can find me at Twitter at NewGen X-Men, and I'm also the other comic editor for Geek Out Nation.
So it's just the two of us this week. Soup is out. He should be back for
Ew.
our he should be back for our next episode, but we didn't want to put this off any further, so we're recording now and presenting you with our discussion of what is an issue that's going around a lot online. So The Wicked and the Divine number 13 is written by Kieran Gillen with art by the amazing Tula Lote. The backup story is written by Kieran Gillen with art by Jamie McKelvey and colors by Matt Wilson. So in a nutshell, Wic Div 13 is when we finally get to meet fucking Tara.
About time.
She has been referenced so many times, never in a good light, and so it's been a pretty decent build-up to finally meeting her. She's the only one that we really didn't get to meet, that we didn't even see. She's completely unknown to us, and before we jump into a more spoiler-filled recap of this and then talk about it, in just one sentence, what did you think of this issue?
Man, this one just really hits you hard. We finally makes sense of where she's been this whole time, and all this time you're thinking she's stuck up. Maybe she sucks, and it's really not at all what you think it is. And when you really find out, when they really dig deep into who Tara is and how she fits into the pantheon, well, how she how she doesn't quite fit into the pantheon, you feel sympathy, you feel a lot of anger for the kind of life she lives, especially for the fact that this is that point where we've seen the people who love their life as a god. We've seen the people who want to be a god. Now we get to see what happens when there's someone who's not quite happy with that life. I mean, Baphomet, he was he saw the ultimate as a curse as well, but this takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah. So all right. So let me jump into just talking about this, what happens in this issue. This is the point in the show where you probably want to not listen to us if you haven't read the issue. Uh, Lots of spoilers coming, so you've been warned. So the issue opens with Tara on stage. She's gorgeous, and she's like every pop star you could imagine in one. So the whole issue is told through her voice, and so she's at this show, she's performing, the crowd is completely enthralled by her. She's not really singing, she's more just doing what the gods do and commanding an audience and commanding people. And what we find out is what she does sometimes is she puts on her mask, and that blocks her powers basically. And she tries to perform her own music. She gets her acoustic guitar, her notebook, she tries to perform some music and recite some poems. But on this particular night, it doesn't go well because the crowd goes into a frenzy, and the first thing somebody says to her is, "Do your thing, you selfish bitch." Well,
Yeah,
from that point, yeah.
rude.
So I mean, and the thing is that's an interesting thing to start off with because that's really a huge part of what this story ends up being about. So because the crowd is pretty much going into a frenzy and it's mayhem, she has to take off her mask and do what she has to do because she's the goddess Tara. This is what she needs to do. So she gets the audience back in her control, and then we're taken through her life story. Tara was always a beautiful young woman, and with that came bad attention. Guys driving by in cars saying vulgar things to her. Men in general just expecting her to do what they want because she is such a beautiful woman. They assume that. Um, People saying I'm going to rape you at bars because she wouldn't do what they wanted, going to school and getting away with things because she was pretty. All of it's obviously a game because she is a beautiful woman, and the way things happen to be for some women is that with that beauty comes expectations of you and things they want you to do for them. And so she wants to be a singer, and and we're led to believe that she is talented, but she wears a mask so nobody can see her face because once they see her, they see her differently. They don't see her. So she meets Ananke, and Ananke makes her a goddess on a night that she's performing with her guitar in a totally empty bar to two really creepy old dudes. And we find out that she's really miserable. She goes to see the rest of the Pantheon, and they're mean to her. I mean, Amaterasu is just nice to everybody, so she's nice. But everyone else is mean to her, and they talk about how she looks, and they call her names, and she has to wear her mask around them too. Otherwise, it's implied that if she doesn't wear her mask, no one even listens to what she says. And when they do listen to what she says, they don't want to hear it because they expect other things of her. But they do talk about what has happened so far. So the issue does take place after Laura is killed, um, which is helpful to know when this is happening. And we see Ananke and Tara, Ananke and Tara talk about what she's going through and that she's miserable. She hates her life, and we get to a point where we see some tweets from people on Twitter that are just vicious and mean and sexual and abusive and horrible, horrible stuff that I don't even want to repeat on here because it's just so bad.
Really?
And seriously, but the thing is okay. We'll get into that. But she's immediately brought to tears, and what we find out is that this entire story that we've been reading was her suicide note. She asks Ananke to kill her, and Ananke, she does it, and then she burns the suicide note, and then we see more tweets where it's still people being jerks, but in that weird, they do that weird, well, I have sympathy, but thing, with the added on insult. And so she dies, and she never really experiences happiness, and um, it's a really thought-provoking issue. It's a lot to take apart based on how things are, and I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but according to a lot of different online reports, the week this book was released was the 1 year, I guess, anniversary. Anniversary is a bad word, but last week, the week this came out was like the 1 year of Gamergate, basically. I don't know if that was planned, but you can see where the parallels are. So what do you want to start off talking about, Joby? What do you want to point out and discuss a little bit?
I'd say let's start with let's start with where we start to see where Tara joins the group, and just the way that she interacts with them, because I found it kind of weird how I found it weird how just the way they react around her. They 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 seemed I don't hold on. Okay, let me get my thoughts together. Actually, you start off. I'll join. Let me get myself together.
Okay, so where this story is, it's not even exaggerating as far as the abuse Tara goes through. If you go on Twitter and you look at celebrities in particular, um, a lot of them, most big celebrities who have millions of followers, they don't tweet that often. A lot of them use the Twitter account for promotional purposes. Some of them make the effort to interact with their fans. Nicki Minaj, in particular, does interact with her fans, which I appreciate. But she is somebody who kind of faces some rude comments. In particular, if you're on Twitter, even if you don't follow her, if you go to Kim Kardashian's page and you expand one of her tweets, you'll see multiple comments of people calling her a slut and a whore and all these different things. Some of them are racial, some of them are just vulgar sexual things. But this is how people are. These tweets that show up here are not over exaggerated. And this is a maximized version for somebody who's a celebrity. If you did follow anything that happened during the whole nonsense of Gamergate, there were specific people who talked about things, and I mean, I've never been through this, not in this particular way, but a lot of those women were attacked with these kinds of statements on a constant basis. I think it was kind of interesting how there's not all of them have profile pictures. A lot of them are the eggs, which is kind of funny because a lot of the people who do try to do the anonymous attacking on Twitter, they don't put a photo of themselves. They like to stay anonymous while they spew hate speech. Um, it's it's incredibly true to life. As you know, I mean, I'm grateful that I didn't grow up in the era now where there is social media everywhere. When I was still in high school, there was MySpace, but it wasn't nearly as full of cyberbullying as you get now. Facebook, I think Facebook only took off when I was like a senior in high school, so it really was not a thing I had in high school. So I didn't see a lot of this, but this exists, and a lot of people have to deal with this on a regular basis, and it is hurtful. And I think as far as celebrities go, we like to see them as these, they entertain us, they provide art, they do a lot to entertain us, but I think all of us at some point kind of forget that they're people too. They may be famous, but that's because we made them famous. And and we forget that they have their own set of problems and that these kinds of words do hurt them too. If you get like 30 million, you get like 3,000 people in 1 hour telling you that you're a bad person. At some point that's going to get to you. It doesn't matter how strong you think you are, it's going to get to you and it's going to be a problem. And it's really a comment on like the social media culture, because it's not just a few people, it's a lot of people who do this, and you kind of wonder where their head is that they treat people like this. And I think it has to do with some of it has to do with the fact that there's another person on the other side of the computer or the phone, but you don't hear their voice, and many times you don't see their face because they'll use like a piece of art as their avatar or whatever, especially on Twitter. Twitter has a lot more of the non-photo avatars than Facebook does, and so you forget that there's a person there, and you think you can just say whatever you want. It's not going to be hurtful, but it is hurtful, and it doesn't reflect well on you as a human being. And that's why I like that the book ends on the line, "Be kind. You never know what people are going through." Um, I really like that. I think that's such a great lesson to take away from this. Because Tara was a goddess. She could have had the entire world in her hand, and she one, didn't want it, and two, no one treated her right. You know, no one treated her like a human being. Like, she had all this power, fine, but nobody treated her like a human being. And it's interesting that in the backup story, because there's more to this than there's some sexism involved in this, because when she's at this award ceremony on the red carpet, the only thing people want to talk to her about is her dress. I mean, the camera at one point is only from her neck down, and they don't want to talk to her. And they assume that because she looks beautiful, that she had um, surgery and operations and Botox and all that kind of stuff. And that's there's that sexism does really exist. And I know I saw some people critiquing this book saying that, you know, it was uncomfortable to read, and you know, and it is. That's the point. It's set in the story with these gods and goddesses, but it's not true to life. I mean, I haven't experienced it as much or as ruthlessly as other women have, but guys can be pushy. Not all of them, not even most of them, but many of them can be rude and not think before they say things. And especially when you go out in social situations, you don't have like the guys that want to just be nice and talk to you. You have like dudes that are like 5 minutes into your conversation, they're trying to like bring you home, and it's like, okay, you know, it's unnecessary, and it does affect, you know, women who are considered to be more beautiful than others, and it's unfortunate and it's horrible, and it does hurt, and I really like that the story was that Tara story was done like this.
Yep. Because people like to say that our generation is too sensitive. That's far from the truth. The problem is our generation is too aggressive. We're at that point where we're at that point where everyone is either on their phone or on their computer. They're not in each other's faces saying this stuff. They're on the internet. They know someone's not going to find, and they know people aren't going to go find them. They know there's no real consequences. I mean, unless you're someone who's on unless you're someone on Tumblr, you're probably, because if you're on Tumblr, someone's probably going to figure out who you are, no matter how much you try to hide it. But go on Twitter, go on Facebook, and people can see whatever they want, and you will never you'll never with a hurtful opinion. And it's sad because at the end of the day, this is the real world. You can be uncomfortable. You can be uncomfortable with reading this, but the fact of the matter is there's plenty of other people in the world who are actually uncomfortable because they're the ones going through this. This is just, it's just life. I mean this is God we're talking about in the for this issue, but that's still something that happens. You just can't avoid it. You can't turn your head, because when you do, that's when this kind of stuff continues without people standing up to it, and it's just sad. Going back to that page with all those tweets. I mean, by the way, I do appreciate when an artist can really bring out that kind of layout of a site or something. Like, they really did their research. But yeah, it's really sad. Like, I know I found it hard just going through all of it, because I'm just thinking, God, what is wrong with people that they really can't take a second to realize that this groupthink that's going on with them, it's not healthy. I mean, you know that the person, the person is not really going to be following those tweets, but they know that people are out there saying these things. They know they're thinking these things. It really does hurt. It's sad. And while you want to sympathize with Terry, I also did have a lot of respect for her, because especially standing up to someone like Val, who just came off so aggressive towards her, and she was like, it's like, I will break you. and I wish we saw a little bit more of that side to her, but for that moment, I really respected her because that was one of the few times she really stood up for herself.
Yeah, I think you made a really interesting point about our generation not being necessarily too sensitive, but maybe being too aggressive. I think that's really interesting because I've found that, being online all day and on smartphones the way you pointed out, I almost think that has made us less capable of interacting with people. I almost feel like that has brought out more hate in us because, all right, when you're around people all day, you can see reactions, you can see facial expressions, you can see people roll their eyes, you can hear the inflection in someone's voice, so you kind of know where to draw the line and what is appropriate conversation and what's not. I think you learn social skills a lot better when you're interacting with people every day. Um, which is part of why, I mean, I've worked a lot of retail jobs and I kind of hate working retail, but I think that it's helped me read people better. And I feel like if you don't have that kind of experience socializing with people in person and a lot of your exposure to conversation is only through text, I think it is easy to be more aggressive. I think that a lot of these guys who do say these things are disgusting people, and we should never really justify what they say. But I
Justify their
wonder if
existence.
I mean, it's just horrible. You can't justify saying those kinds of things to anybody. I mean, really. Like, you don't know this person. That's the way you're approaching them. Like, are you serious? But I do wonder if some of that could be because they don't have any interaction with real people. Like, they just spew whatever comes into their head, no matter how hateful it is, because they don't know any better, because they don't know how to read people and they never talk with people who are different than they are and they don't know what is acceptable behavior. And I think people who speak out against that are the ones who get called too sensitive when really it's just asking that you not be an asshole. And
Exactly.
I mean, and that's not asking for a whole lot. I mean, if you're sexist or you're racist, you're against certain religions, the problem is not everyone else. The problem is you being unable to accept other people that are different from you. And
Mhm.
I feel like not interacting in person with those people hurts you. I mean, I think I've had the opportunity to work for a small nonprofit political organization for a few years, and I've met a lot of different people from a lot of different countries, a lot of different backgrounds, and I've learned a lot, and my own views on things have evolved. But I don't know if not having the experience of talking with people and only using your phone or your computer has helped. I think technology's done a lot of good things, but as this issue shows, it's also led to a lot of bad things. Because I don't know if those people who believe those things and say them online would say them in person. There's some that will, because you see protests in the streets of like KKK people, you know, but I don't know if people who are our age, which is our early 20s, would be as bad if they had more interaction with flesh and blood people and not just internet.
Yep.
Which I think that's why I think you brought up such an interesting point about our generation being aggressive. Because I actually think that's more the case than oversensitivity.
It really is because there's only so much you can take. But the fact that it matters, people these days are so quick to dish it out, and they'll hit you as hard as they can, and it's not necessary.
It's like people get upset that something happens and people are coming out and saying that's not right to say, that's ignorant, and it's like, well, good that they're doing that, because calling somebody, going on Twitter and saying dresses like a slut, that's not okay. Like, who are you? Like, why why do you feel right now that that is the kind of comment you need to say to somebody? You know, it's not necessary. And for people to call you out on it just means that they're trying to tell you stop being an ass. There's no reason to be an ugly person like that. There's never any reason for it. But when you say that that person is wrong, that's when people want to call you oversensitive. And I don't think that's fair. I think that's just asking that people treat each other a little bit better, which I don't think there's anyone in the world that couldn't do without that. I think everybody can use a little bit more empathy and just being a little bit nicer. Not everything that pops into your head needs to be said.
Exactly.
It just doesn't. I mean, you have to understand that hateful things are hateful, and we can't just sit here and be like, no, it's cool, you can say any hateful thing you want. Like, that's not okay. You can't do that. It's like when comic creators get upset that something they may have written upset people. Well, instead of getting mad that people are upset, why don't you hear why they're upset and understand that you might be in the wrong, but it's not like we all hate you for it. It's just you did something, you may have not understood something, and coming at other people who criticize you and being hateful is not the way to go about it. And it's not oversensitivity. It's just don't be an asshole. That's like the rule of life. Just don't be an asshole.
Exactly. And getting back to this issue, it's sad because this whole issue, as you said again, this is a suicide note, and it disgusts you because it's not only a suicide note, it's a message to the world. And Ananke just decides, no, I'm not going. No, you're not going to release this to the world, and just burns it. That was wrong.
Yeah, you know, she kind of comes off like the person who's silencing somebody for trying to do the right thing. Tara getting to the point where she wanted to kill herself and successfully did is a problem. And I think that not everyone understands people becoming suicidal, but you need to have some sympathy for those people because look at what Tara was going through. Everyone saw her as something else, and what she really was somebody who just wanted to be cared about for who she was. She just wanted to read her poems and play her music, and instead everyone just wanted to look at her. And that just devalues you as a person, and you can't not see why she made that jump. Like, you can see why she got to the point where she was like, no, I'm done. What's the point? That you can see why she got there, even though you wish that she didn't, and you wish that she'd kind of found some sort of peace while she was alive, but I don't think that would have ever been possible in the situation she was in, which is so
It's
sad.
what I find disappointing is that it makes you wonder how could her life have changed if she met Laura. Who knows?
That's the thing, and that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, Laura was such a fangirl. I think her and Tara would have gotten along. Actually, I think her and Tara would have gotten along. I mean, Lucy was very rough around the edges, and she and Laura really connected. Cassandra and Laura connected. And Nana and Laura connected, so I don't think it'd be stretching it too far to think that her and Tara wouldn't have connected. I mean, to an extent, her and Ananke sort of connected too, until she was betrayed by her. And that's kind of what we lose with Laura being gone, and that's really, really sad. As far as this conversation at the Pantheon goes, that's the thing that works so well about this issue too. It's like Gillen and Lotte wanted to tell you this important story, but they also didn't forget that this is a chapter of a series. So there's an interesting conversation with who's left of the Pantheon about what they're going to do next. And so we see that they are all working together to an extent. They know that Woden has told them there was a camera crew. They have the Morgan. They've hurt her, as we know. They hurt her face very badly, and so they're trying to figure out what to do next. But Woden tells them that there's a camera crew. Ananke feels that they need to. Sakmet offers to like kill them, and Ananke says that something much more subtle needs to be taken. A much more subtle approach needs to be taken. It's not a lot to go on, but it's definitely pointing towards this new crew being a really big part of what happens next, which you talked about in the last episode. And I like that they get some mentioning here. And what I'm interested in is what the group of the gods that's left are going to do. Because what would be a more subtle approach to getting rid of the camera crew?
Yeah.
That's the question. Because I do think your option at this point is to just kill them. But we can't keep killing everybody off.
I think the thing is they're going to try to get this camera crew, but there's obviously going to be obstacles. You're going to have the Nords. They can easily interfere because as they said, they've pretty much become the new Terra. You still have Laura, who they're not aware of is dead. Wait, are they? They're not. Yeah, they're not aware. Yeah, they're not aware. They're not aware that Laura's dead. So they're still learning about that. That could become an obstacle. And then there's just then you still have Amaterasu. Because you still have Amaterasu because the others seem to all be controlled by Ananke pretty easily. And she just looks like she could cause some trouble for them if they take things a bit too far.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to see what their next action is going to be, because I feel like Cassandra is a wild card in all of this, because I think she cared about Laura, and I think I'm interested to see what she is going to do with her gone, if anything. I got the impression she cared about her. So I don't think she's gonna let it go. If she's still the Cassandra that we knew, then I think she's gonna continue investigating and digging more into Ananke.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Ananke can afford to kill her right now.
No.
I don't think she can do that. Which is the thing which is kind of the issue I have right now with Ananke being so powerful, because she literally kills you with a snap of her fingers. Literally, that is what she does. And if she can do that, then you would assume she could kill Cassandra if she wanted to, but I don't think she can, because the Pantheon seems to be closing up. They seem to be much closer now because there's less of them, but they're not asking the questions that matter, and I'm interested to see when they will. Like, no one's asking about Inanna. No one's really pointing the finger at Ananke. Terra's dead. We don't get any inclination as to where, if any of them are upset about this. It's interesting to say the least. I don't know where that's gonna go, but I mean, based on the first two arcs, we know it's gonna be something big. But I do wonder if the other reason you can't kill Cassandra is because we're running out of characters.
Yeah. Which also makes you wonder what we're gonna do with Baphomet, because he's not done.
No, he's not. So it's definitely interesting. So Tula Lote, she's an amazing artist. She did the series Supreme Blue Rose with Warren Ellis. Recently, she worked on the Vertigo series, The Names. No, yes, no, it was Bodies. I'm sorry, it was Bodies. She worked on that series. She's an amazing artist, and I think this was I mean, Supreme Blue Rose is gorgeous, but I think this might have been her best work yet. I really love the color palette in the beginning, the way things look like actual light and the neon colors. Tara's outfit is, I like her look, but her outfit might be a little unbelievable. And
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was
what's
thinking.
holding that up? Like, which is like basically my only nitpick with this whole issue. Like, I like the whole sexy pop star approach, because that's, I mean, the pop stars now, I mean, they wear like nothing, but at least it makes sense that they actually put the clothes on. Like, I don't know how you'd wear this. I mean, I guess because she's a goddess, we just have to suspend belief, but um, she's gorgeous. Like, her character design is, Lotte draws her beautifully. In the first panel with her face with the blue makeup over it and like the really glossy lips, that's beautiful. And her reaching into the crowd, it's gorgeous. And then the past flashback stuff where it's more muted and lots of greens, like, I love that. I thought that was a great way to differentiate the time periods. Um, that was a beautiful way to differentiate things. And then her clothing, like the rest of the issue, like that dress she wears when she comes into the Pantheon, like it's gorgeous. Like, that is a dress I could see somebody actually making. That's a gorgeous dress. And her mask is really cool. I think it's interesting that her mask doesn't have a mouth on it. Reflecting that she's not listened to, so what's the point in talking? The ending where she's crying, like, those tears are so real, and the pain in her face is, the couple panels where she's getting up and she's crying and she's opening her mouth to sing and reaching out, like, that's a beautiful sequence. I mean, I think the last issue we thought the art didn't really work for the story. If Jamie McKelvey and Matt Wilson need a break, if they need a break again, I would not be upset with Tula Lotte coming in for a little bit.
Oh man.
Yeah, do you have anything you want to mention about the art?
Like I really liked that last part too. I mean, there's just so much emotion pouring out of it. Just that, just the issue after she sees those tweets, and she just looks so defeated. It's sad. It hurts you a bit. This is that point. This is that point where she's hit that point of no return. She's like, this is it. I'm done. There's no turning back. And even as beautiful as those couple panels where she's singing, it just stings because you know what's coming. You know exactly what's coming. I mean, when Laura died, that hit you out of nowhere. But this one, you knew it was coming, and it just sucks. I mean, aside from this, I also really liked the design of Tara. In general, when it came to her design, you kind of noticed the way she kind of stands out compared to everybody. There's a little more detail that goes into her than the rest of the characters, and I like that because you want the focus to be on her. I mean, it's not the kind of attention she likes, but it's great that she shows off her talents, especially when it comes to clothing, because that is a part of her. That's not something that Anake gave her. That's something she did for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to the flashbacks, I really liked the way you see her with her hair curled up, with her wearing a little more clothing. You see how she's trying to hide those features that people look at instead of her. And just that shift from her then to her now, it's good that we see that that difference in character. but yeah, but aside from that, the colors really blew me away. It's that whole gradient, the warm colors, the cold colors. It's just all beautiful, especially that those first couple of pages, and just the way that also the narration stands out itself, with the blue and the pink background. It's distinguishing to her just like everybody else, because some of the others, they all have their interesting way. They all have an interesting way they speak, but for her, it's more of the pages of her suicide note that carry her voice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful issue that just hits you in a lot of different places. And I think if you've never read Wic Div, I don't think this is a great place to get into the story that's been going on, but I think it's an issue worth reading
Hmm.
as far as what happens and
Reading for the
the
message.
yeah, it's something that I think anyone who uses social media should read. Um, because again, it's social. Like you're talking to other people. It's like I don't know. I feel like people get a bad rap for being too nice, and it's like I think a lot more people could use a little bit more niceness. You know,
Definitely.
you don't have to like everyone. Um, you're not expected to, but people you don't know, people you've never met, people who have given you no reason to throw hate messages at them, maybe don't start off with that kind of stuff. I don't care if they're famous, you know. It's just it doesn't. I never can really wrap my head around it. I mean, yeah, they're on TV, and you know, even somebody like Kim Kardashian, who's on TV all the time, and her whole thing is making herself famous. I don't think it really makes it okay to say that stuff to her. You know, I don't think it excuses it. It's just, you know, it's like, yeah, I get it. That's her whole thing. She poses for magazines without actually doing anything. But it is what it is. It's, you know, you don't have to agree with what she does, but you also don't have the right to say mean things, you know? I mean, I'm not really into the Kardashians at all, but geez, like, come on. You
You don't
know?
have you don't have to shame them from every opportunity you get.
Well, I mean, it's like, you know, I was told if I don't have something nice to say, then don't say it. You know, I don't think that is such a bad thing to do. You know, I don't think that's such a bad thing to live by. You know, it's that and treat others how you want to be treated. I mean, if you want to be treated like that, then fine. But you know, you want to be treated like a human being, which is not asking for very much at all. Then don't act like that towards other people. There's no reason for it. There's just
Exactly.
no reason. But we're oversensitive, so you know. Oh man. So the next issue of this series features the whole team back together for
Finally.
a Woden issue. I think,
That's gonna be beautiful.
yeah, I don't think that they're fully back yet. I think they're doing this one issue. I think there's two more. I feel like there might be more guest issues. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to double check that. But the next issue is the team back together again, which is pretty exciting because they work so well together. But if you were looking for them because you missed the regular team, Phonogram just came out, and that is Gillen, McKelvey, and Wilson. So
Mhm.
if you're really missing them, that's another musical issue. It's a very musical series. It's interesting. It's not a it's it's got a lot going on. The characters are not instantly likable, but the story is very, very good, and it's definitely a very pop culture, music heavy series. So the Wicked and the Divine number 14 will have the regular team. There's a variant cover that goes with it. The solicit reads as behind the music, Woden stayed back from the spotlight, but in this issue, we look beneath the mask. Shall we say it's the most audacious and experimental issue of Wic Div yet? I think so. A lot of people have been talking about this, wondering what the experimental part is, and I have my own theory. I think we're not seeing his face. I think we're going to see the entire issue through his eyes.
Oh.
Yep, I think it's going to be like a first-person shooter.
That would be funny.
Which I think is pretty exciting, to be honest. I think that would be an interesting way to approach Woden's story, with not ever seeing his face, because Woden is supposed to be Odin, which is the All-Father, which is God. Which, if you look at it from it being like, if he's God, right? We don't really know what God looks like, so makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I want someone to like buy me free pizza if I'm right about that, though. Like I think that's what it's gonna be. I mean, they're calling it audacious and experimental, and I think it'd be pretty experimental to tell a story through a character's eyes instead of, doing something more straightforward like this issue or the other issues we've had in this series. That to me would be experimental, and that would be an amazing. I think that'd be a really interesting book. I think it would be even more interesting if it's through his eyes and there's no narration. There's only dialogue. Yeah, only dialogue. I think that would be interesting too.
There's a lot of stuff they can do with this.
I mean, they're saying experimental. I've got my money on it being from his eyes. Like, we're never seeing him. We'll see maybe his hands in front of his face or people looking at him. Maybe because Matt Wilson had tweeted a little bit about it. Maybe from his eyes means it's going to be through the mask as well. So things will be a little inverted. Things will be different colored. Because they'll be looking through that, so it'll be like looking through somebody's eyes in sunglasses. I think that's what it's going to be. I really do, and I hope I'm right, because the idea of that is very exciting with this art team at least. Another art team, I don't know if that would work, but this art team, I think that would work.
Yeah.
I think that would work very well.
It should be funny because they do say that he's a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be an interesting way to get to know a character, because these last two issues have it's been two, right? Yeah, it's been two.
Yep.
The last two issues have let us understand the gods a little bit more, and the first part of this arc was Ball and Inanna, but it was very much done like a documentary where it was interviews and there was a camera crew involved, and then this was Tara's suicide note. And that to me was an interesting storytelling technique, and I think that it would be really cool for Woden's story to be told literally through his eyes, through his perspective of the world. So we get a lot of like eye length things where he'd be looking at a building but not really seeing the top, or looking down a hallway and only seeing the person he's looking at. Like I think that would be cool. I hope I'm right. I should tweet that. I hope I'm right, but I think that would be really cool. I think that would be cool. And yeah, I mean, I don't know where this arc is going. So I think as far as furthering the story, I think it does a little bit of that. It does enough of that, but I'm hoping that the next issue really pushes forward the story a little bit more.
True. Yeah, I would appreciate that as well.
Yeah, just a little bit more. So do you have any like final thoughts about this issue?
Well, the only other thing to bring up was something that you pointed out before, which was an appreciation for how how at the end of this issue they all still have some other artwork by Tula Lotte, which also looks stunning.
Yeah, they have Supreme Blue Rose in here. You really should read that. It's really weird, but it's really, really good. She did the Bodies is a Vertigo series. The trade is out. It's 4 different detectives in 4 different timelines find the same body. So each issue is the 4 different detectives trying to find out who killed the person, and she is an artist on one of the sections. She does, I believe she does the future timeline. She does the future, yeah, she does the future timeline if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure I got that right because the present day was she handles the future timeline, and so it's really pretty. It's very different from this, but it's very, very pretty. But Supreme Blue Rose is a really good example of what she can do. She has another series upcoming with Warren Ellis. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but she has another series coming out. She's a really great artist. You should. Her Twitter handle is at Tula Lotte. She's amazing. She's just, like I said. If McKelvey and Wilson need a break, like, bring her in.
Yeah, definitely. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind another.
Yeah. So that wraps us up for this episode. Thank you for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at Wic Div Cast. We'll do our very best to update that more often than just when we have a new episode. Check out this podcast and the previous episodes on geekedoutnation.com. Tweet us, tweet the fan page, tweet, the site. Comment on this page and let us know what you think, or let us know your own theories. But let us know your theories about the series. We're not looking to hear mean comments about online harassment. Try to keep it civil. If you do get into any kind of conversations like that, again, be kind. It's not that hard. And we'll be back in a few weeks. The next issue is on September 9th. So we should be back with like a month from today, actually. So that's when you should expect the next episode. Once again, I am Jess Camacho. You can find me on Twitter at CamachoJess. I'm a comic editor for Geeked Out Nation, and I'm a contributor at Multiversity Comics.
And I am Genovia Dunze. I'm at New Gen X-Man on Twitter, and co-editor for co-comic editor for Geeked Out Nation.
All right, and the website is geekedoutnation.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Geeked Out Nation. And we will see you guys in a month. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.